What's up, Internet? I'm Jeff Grettler, and today we have a Spiceworks Spotlight. That's right, we're going to turn the spotlight on ourselves, specifically around the State of IT reports. We're going to give you an insight in that report, and what better person to give you an insight of the state of IT than the head of Technology Insights. That's right, he's a data dynamo and also happens to be a breakdancing behemoth. So without further ado, here is Peter Tsai. Peter, what's up? How are you?
Hey, Jeff, I'm doing well.
With your role at Spiceworks, you are in the trenches a lot, right? The data dig for Peter Tsai never stops, right? You're a man of the people. You're in the streets. Wherever there's some tech insights to be found, Peter will be there.
Yes, per my title, my job is to discover and share lots of insights with the Spiceworks community and engage in conversations for all of the IT professionals to see what's going on in the world, see how it relates to their jobs, and see if we can come up with some learnings to help everybody advance their careers.
Yeah, and it's always, it's always a great session at Spiceworld when you are talking about the state of IT, and we'll get into that in a little bit. But like I said, you're doing this all year round. It's not like a one-year thing. That's just your WrestleMania. But like when you go into the community, you always have great posts. Like I love reading your posts because it's almost like it's the coffee in the morning when you read that. It's just like, what did Peter find now? Right? Yeah. And you have a lot of good stuff that's in there. So we're going to go through some, we'll just go through one right now because it is the topic du jour of one of your posts, because there were some interesting comments on that. So you made that post and we'll provide the link for you. Is AI worth investing in, or is it overhyped? I mean, I feel like for AI, this is like the first, you and I have been in this industry for a long time. I feel like this is the first time that when you say something that used to just be like buzzword bingo and it just really just affected specific to the industry, this is like global, affecting everybody, every industry across the whole landscape, right?
Yeah, and it's really, the question is it worth investing in, or is it overhyped? The answer is really both, depending on who you're talking to. And the IT professionals were like, yeah, it's buzzword bingo, but at the same time, it's a game-changing thing that could fundamentally alter how we do everything. So, in the state of IT, we really saw a lot of both optimism and pessimism for it at the same time.
I think that's, and again, that's something everywhere, but we're just going to focus on our community, those IT professionals and tech professionals, on how that's going to affect them, because they definitely are going to be the first line of defense on what they're seeing here. And I think, that I see that mix, because we always take all our new tech as as an IT professional myself, we always take that new tech with a grain of salt. And we're always like trained to be like, is this really just marketing, or is this real? Like, and in this case, I think, like you said, it's both. So one of the comments that were in there, this was from Bad Dat Names, Bad at Names, not Bad Dat Names, from Bad at Names. Just like all heavily marketed new things, it's overhyped. Plenty of value in it, just like many other tools. Right tool for the right job. AI is not a tool for everything at this point. Accurate, right?
Yeah, and I can relate with that. Both in the data from State of IT and in the comments, you can see that there's a lot of optimism for AI. So I'll just share one of the stats with you. We asked that question, is AI worth investing in the State of IT? We asked about a lot of different technologies. And then we asked people, is it worth investing in, or is it not worth investing in? And then we took those numbers and we subtracted the amount of people who said it was not worth it from the amount of people who said it was worth it. So overall, we got a net score of 68% of all IT pros saying that AI is worth investing in, and making it one of the top technologies they think is worth investing in. But then the comment said that it's not really going to apply to everybody. It's not a tool for everybody at this point. And we also saw that reflected in the data. We asked about specific use cases of AI. And then when you ask them, well, is it good for automating like a chatbot, like an internal chatbot for your help desk. Then they got a little bit squirrely. So only 32%, yeah, only 32%, a third said that is worth investing in for that. And even for the most common use case for using for information retrieval through ChatGPT, only 43%, a net of 43% said it's worth investing in. So I think there's just a lot of excitement for AI in general and the potential. But then when you say, is it really working in your specific use case? They're kind of like, sort of.
Yeah, and that feels like it makes sense, right? I mean, AI being, we're finding a way for automation to automate itself, right? So that's where it actually comes from. But this is the first time I feel like the the concept itself has to come with an asterisk, right? Because the whole thing about AI is the training, right? As you train it, it's going to get better. So is it the right tool for this person? Soon. When will
Yeah,
then be
yeah, that's the
now?
wild card.
Soon.
Yeah.
It feels like a wild card. So as people get better at training these AI models, then we don't know what the limits are. I mean, it's very right now, I've heard a lot of takes from a lot of popular scientists out there that are just like, this is like the equivalent of AI is a preschool level of consciousness, right? Where it's just right now, it's just mimicking. But as we know, eventually preschoolers grow up, and is the technology going to grow up around it? And
Right.
it's just like, and we almost don't know what that limit is.
Yeah, it's like in most technologies, they're around and then they're just kind of a thing that's up next. And then one day, like for ChatGPT, it was a couple of years ago, everybody was like, "Wow, it's really doing things." But then once people kick the tires a little more, they're like, "But is it really?" And I think we're kind of at that point. There's incremental improvements that over time will keep adding and adding, but no one really knows where it's going to go. And so going back to our data from the state of IT, a lot more people are kicking the tires. So we run the state of IT report every single year. And last year, going into 2024, only 25% of companies said that they had implemented AI in a meaningful way. Going into 2025, 40% of companies had already implemented it. So if you're keeping track, that's growth of 1.6x year over year, and that's pretty huge.
That is
And look,
huge.
yeah, and looking forward, we see an additional 22% of companies planning to adopt it within the next couple of years. So, yeah, we're getting a lot more hands-on time. A lot more people are actually seeing what it's good for and what it's not. And meanwhile, all the companies are improving their offerings as well.
And it's funny, I saw a meme the other day that was just like, ChatGPT loses its job to new automation
Yeah, yeah,
because it's going to improve so fast. I mean, it's just going to be like the equivalent of looking at, an internet browser in 1999 compared to now.
right.
Like, you don't realize the
Yeah,
shock there, but I think this is one that it's not going to take too many outside sources. It's going to start improving on itself. Right. And then that's
yeah,
where it's really going to get really interesting. Let's just grab one more
yeah.
quote from that post that you posted in there. Is AI worth investing or is it overhyped? Mullen said, I believe we're in the early stages of game changing technology shift, similar to the personal PC, the internet, and the smartphone. It's already been extremely beneficial for us, our customers, and personally. It's not a silver bullet fix all, but it's an amazing tool when applied successfully. So it
Yeah, and I
is.
think that really gives color. That really gives color to what I've been saying. It's great for those specific people who can use it now, but maybe it's not useful for every single person in every single situation. But as time goes on and on, he's comparing it to other technologies. It's in the hands of the nerds, and then it goes to the early adopters, kind of the general public, and then eventually everybody's using it, and your grandma's on it, kind of like on Facebook. And then we'll see where it goes, right? And I don't know exactly which phase we are for which use cases, but yeah, we're still kind of in the early adopters, and it's moving into mass adoption, at least for chatbots. But for some of the more advanced features or use cases, we're not really there yet. So it's exciting to see where we'll go.
It's kind of funny the thought of like the family IT support for it's like grandma, just like, yeah, ChatGPT's not working. Did you change the input? If you're on the wrong input,
Yeah.
that's always the family support. Just change the input. It's
Yeah.
funny. being somewhat of a nerd, one of my favorite quantum physicists, Thomas Campbell, he actually has an AI model that he's training to be a version of himself. So he goes like, so when you're on their chatbot, they're trying to make it feel like you're talking to him when you're talking to the
Hmm.
chatbot. And that's when it really starts to get like, whoa, kind of blowing your mind. Like, wait, am I really talking to him or am I talking to the digital version of him? And then when that bleeds together, that's when your mind gets blown. Just like, whoa,
Yeah,
how many layers
and
deeper are we in this?
yeah, and we've been playing around with it here internally. Our CTO was messing around with it, and I said, "Wow, well, now we can really deep fake you for real." And yeah, it really did sound like him. So
Oh, that's wild. Yeah, and that's when
yeah,
things are really going to change, but it's going to go fast. But let's get into the meat of this, right? This, again, like I was saying, especially around Spice World, this is Peter Tsai's WrestleMania, the state of IT. I always love seeing it at Spice World, personally just to watch it, but I love the excitement that's around it. Like you always have the standing room only, you have people like leaking out of the room because it's one of these, it's a piece of material that we provide that like is going to affect everybody in the industry. So you need to hear this. Like you can't turn a blind eye to the state of IT.
right. Especially since technology changes so fast, you really should know what's going on in the industry at large. So State of IT covers not only AI technology adoption, but IT spending and IT careers as well. So, as I mentioned, my the goal in my job is to help everybody become better at their job or develop their career. So yeah, it's really valuable information for everyone.
Yeah, and it's like it's really there's no wasteful info in here, right? Because we're going to the people. It's the power of the people here, and just like that's where you're getting the information. Are the people, our frontline technology professionals, and our tech
Yes.
vendors out there. So it's great information. I'll spiceworks.com/research/IT hyphen report. But let's get into the first one again. Let's keep talking about AI, right? How are companies currently spending on AI?
Yeah, so there's a lot of different ways, and AI is kind of making its way into everything at the current time, right? So every software application is having AI features integrated into it. So companies are adopting it through products they already use, where AI is being added to them, and they're also spending on AI as a standalone product as well. For example, a lot of companies have a license with ChatGPT, so they have their own private instance. So their private data or their company data is not being shared to inform the model, for example. But I already shared those stats a little bit earlier, but AI adoption is up a lot. So 1.6x growth year over year, an additional 22% of companies planning to adopt in the next couple of years. And looking at just overall spending, generative AI is the technology that is the most likely to increase in spending year over year. So a lot of companies are very interested in AI. They are kicking the tires, as I mentioned, and they are making use of AI in many different ways, whether it's integrated into products they already own, for example, security software that uses AI to detect threats, or monitoring software that analyzes logs in real time using AI, or if they're just spending on it as a standalone chatbot type product like ChatGPT as well.
Got it. So the data in the state of IT is showing that companies believe AI is worth it.
Yeah, we covered that a little bit earlier, but yes, a lot of companies believe that AI as a general technology is worth investing in currently. But when you break it down into specific use cases, they're not as sure. But overall, because of the massive potential that AI might bring, companies think that they should be investing in it currently, even if they don't think the current use cases are going to pay dividends now. But one thing we like to track in the state of IT is future tech adoption or emerging tech adoption. So we want to see which technologies companies are placing bets on, and AI is definitely one of them. And which technologies they don't think is are which technologies they don't think are as important. And yes, AI, it's the elephant in the room. It is where the most amount of spending is flowing, along with cybersecurity products. But yes, I think a lot of companies are very keen on seeing where AI can take them, not only today, but in the future. And the money is also flowing in that direction as well.
Yeah, and it's just like me. Like I said, I've been in the industry 25 years now, and I feel like it's the first time like you get this piece of tech that like the the potential of it is like so high that there has to be a little bit of FOMO with these companies of just like, look, we don't even understand what this can do yet, but we we know what that we don't know something, so we better start at least going into that direction because we know tech changes so fast. I think now we're at that stage where it's going to change faster than ever, right? It's just like especially the way you're training AI and how fast this stuff is improving that there's
Mhm.
companies that they're just not going to want to get left behind. So I totally
Right.
understand why they're doing that. So companies clearly believe that there's something to be had there, but is it showing as mostly hype? Do you think there's a lot of hype there and people are going to kind of bet on this horse that was just like overhyped?
Yeah, it depends on who you really talk to. I think IT professionals who are in the trenches are a little bit more skeptical compared to IT professionals who are in more senior leadership positions. So if you ask those in leadership positions, they are very optimistic about AI. If you ask those IT staff members, maybe the ones who are deploying it, they're a bit more skeptical going forward into the future. And also, we also split our data out by through a generational lens. So if you ask younger IT professionals, for example, members of the millennial and the Gen Z cohorts, if you ask them about the importance of a skill like AI prompting, they're much more likely to say, yes, that's a very important skill I need in my own career to advance where I am, versus those who are older. So if you look at the folks who are members of the baby boomer generation, they might be retiring soon. They might not think that they have to learn this skill because they're exiting the workforce soon. So you can see through that generational lens, a lot of IT professionals know that AI is probably going to change their career trajectory over time. So and the younger ones are more keen on learning those AI type skills, and they're more likely to believe having those skills is valuable to their career as well.
Yeah, and just to plug, there was another post that you did recently, right? Of just like, is this younger generation as tech savvy as promised? I don't know if that was the actual
Hmm.
title, but that was a great read. So definitely go check that out in the community as well. That was a lot of interesting, interesting opinions on that.
Yeah, and that research covered well that they just kind of use iPads at school and they just magically work. And now kids are using ChatGPT in school. So are they? I'm going to write another article about are they outsourcing some of their critical reasoning skills to AI? How's that going to change everything? It's yeah, a lot of it is unknowable, but maybe
It's still
yeah,
fascinating though, being in this
yeah,
industry to see that and just like the generational divides I think are going to be a lot more clear now where just like you said there's generations now that we always just like practice our Google fool skills like oh just Google it just check like I
yeah.
think Chappy GPT has taken a lot more of that traffic that would have been Google's right.
Yeah, it's funny if Gen Z is the generation that never grew up without Google. The generation after them will be the one that never grew up without AI, and then
Yeah,
they'll be like, "Look at these Gen Zers. They don't know." Like, yeah, they're going to be the future boomers. That's going to be funny to see
that is going to be interesting to
in
see.
30 or 40 years. Yeah.
But yeah, let's jump back now. So we were talking about IT careers. Is the job market currently thriving or doing well for IT professionals?
Yeah. So I think in general, let me caveat this. In the state of IT, we have a lot of nuance in our findings. There's always opportunities and challenges in any area. But overall, I think it is a good time for IT professionals if you have the right skill sets. So, for example, some of the data that I analyze comes from the US Bureau of Labor and Statistics. Overall, computer occupations are expected to grow 13% over the next 10 years compared to a average of 4% for all occupations. So you can look at that and say, yes, computer occupations are growing at a rate of more than three times the national average. So
Oh
that's
wow.
that's also yeah, that's great news. And looking at our state of IT data, we ask every year, is your IT department going to increase in size or decrease in size over the next year? And yes, there too, businesses who participated in our study indicated that they are 7 times as likely to increase the size of their IT departments than decrease. So 43% of companies said they are growing their IT department in 2025 versus only 6% of companies decreasing the size of their IT department. So that's also really good news. But at the same time, we're talking about how technology changes rapidly. And at the same time, IT careers change rapidly. So some careers, like in cybersecurity, are expected to grow at 33% over the next 10 years. So that's much faster than average. Additionally, positions in IT management are expected to grow at around 16% over the next 10 years. But at the same time, some other positions are not expected to grow or remain stagnant or even contract. So I shared some data in a recent post showing that some roles like network and computer network and computer systems administrators, growth in that job title is going to be a little bit stagnant compared to others. But at the same time, some roles like computer network architects, their job growth is expected to see 13% growth over the next 10 years. So it really depends on what role we're talking about. Overall, the IT field is expected to grow much faster than the national average, but depending on what position you're looking at, it's a different story. So it's important to have the right skills to ride the wave of growth. Is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, no, and that makes sense. I mean, to, use an analogy from the new Willy Wonka, apologies for the old Willy Wonka people, just like, his dad he was the toothpaste filler, right? He just like filled that, and then, a robot replaced his job, but then his dad got a job repairing the robot that was filling the toothpaste tube. So, I mean, because he still had an understanding of how the process works. So it was kind of on us as, to make sure we don't shy too much away from these new skills and find a way to kind of dovetail into what we know and our experience and what is coming and kind of learn from that. Because I think if you have that foundation of where we came from, it's going to really support your job search and your skill set to make you valuable to these companies where they might be a little afraid, like we were talking about FOMO. They don't want to be left behind. So why don't you become that subject matter expert? I never really thought it was possible to automate yourself out of a job. It might automate yourself to the point where your job morphs, but I never really got bought into that. Like you're going to just replace yourself. I don't know. You see those, some of those admins that hold tight to how things were. I don't think that's always advantageous, for anybody. So,
Right. Yeah. You got to constantly evolve because the in-demand skills are always changing. Right. And in our research, we asked the question, which skills are important for a career in IT, and we also asked the IT professionals who took the survey, are you confident in these skills or not? And some of our results were quite interesting.
yeah. Again, all your results are interesting. That's why I just love reading. It's just like because there's theories and there's takes out there. It's kind of like sports takes. There's a lot of takes out there. Doesn't mean there's ones that are good takes. But I love the takes that are coming from you and the state of IT because they're actually in the trenches and you have that understanding and context because you're hearing it right from the people.
Right. Yes, I'm just the messenger there, but really the voice. I am the messenger. The voice is from the people.
Yes. You are somewhat the CM Punk of Spiceworks, right? You are the voice for the voiceless.
There you go.
So we were talking about some of the skills in demand. Obviously, we were talking about AI, but another one that I feel like that's always going to be in demand, and correct me if I'm wrong if the data doesn't show that, is security, right? Security is something that's always changing and evolving, and now more than ever. So I feel like any kind of security, any company that says I feel secure with my stuff are already kind of in trouble. So does the data show that, or is there other skills that are really important?
Yeah. So going back to the question we asked, which skills are very important currently in IT to have if you want to grow your career. And then turning around right after you ask that, saying, how confident are you in those skills? So cybersecurity did come very much at the top.
Oh, nice.
The top three skills that you need in a career in IT, according to IT professionals, again, I'm just the messenger, but core technical knowledge, obviously, problem solving, obviously, and then right up there with those is cybersecurity. So it is at the top of the list. However, not that many IT professionals said that they are very or extremely confident in their cybersecurity knowledge currently. So that's revealing a skills gap. So while 90% say it's important or very important, only 63% say they are very confident in those skills. So yeah, that's one of the biggest skills gaps out there. And that comes at a time where 57% of senior tech leaders who took our survey said it's hard to hire skilled talent. And right there, you're seeing a lot of cybersecurity talent is not out there. They're trying to hire for it, but they are not finding the people that they need currently. So
But I kind of like that fire, right? I kind of like that the IT professional is like, look, I might not be there, but if you have that fire to learn it, it's almost like kind of
mhm.
look at yourself like that AI models. Like I might not know, but I have the desire and the core understanding to figure it out. Train me like a model, invest in me, and I will figure this out for you. I mean, I think that's a great, to me, that it's just like that's a very fertile field to grow some jobs.
Yes, yes, and a very fertile field to educate yourself. So
Yeah.
we also asked the question, what certifications are most worth pursuing currently? And security is the number one out there. It's not networking, it's not databases, it's not operating systems or virtualization. The number one certification that IT professionals want to pursue right now is security.
Yeah, I like it. Just be a little hungry. Just always feel a little insecure where it forces
Yeah.
you to evolve. So, and speaking on that, along the lines of jobs, is certifications. Are there any like hot certifications out there that the data shows, or what certifications are worth pursuing? Other than, I mean, obviously, I think security's got to be at the top there.
Yeah, security is at the top, followed by cloud, networking, databases, and then AI. What was very interesting to me in the data, we did a similar survey about 10 years ago. Back then, the top certifications were all in virtualization. That was the big buzzword.
Right.
Yeah, virtualization, operating systems, everybody wanted to be like Microsoft or Linux certified.
Oh yeah.
That's very much towards the bottom of the list now. And then general IT support, like everybody wanted to be A plus certified or have their MCP or MCSE back then.
Oh, I remember those days.
Yep. So while those are still valuable for many people, especially IT professionals starting out their career, it's interesting to see how the value proposition has flipped. Those used to be the top certifications to get. Now it's more advanced skills. It's security and cloud and databases and AI, right? So it's interesting. We talked about how you have to always keep learning and technology is evolving very quickly. Now it seems like the general IT support and OSs and virtualization skill sets are kind of table stakes, and now we're adding upon that on top of that.
I think the technology industry alone could keep the distracted boyfriend meme in business forever, right? Just place
Yeah.
what used to be at the back where the current girlfriend with the new girlfriend walking by. I know
Mhm.
virtualization could be that. I mean, cloud could be, they're always going to be there. And that's a good thing, right? That to me, that it's just like, that means it's a, it's not going to be an industry that ever goes stagnant. It's just going to change. It's just going to morph,
Yes,
you know,
indeed.
and it's just like what these companies and the professionals want to invest in that. On that, let's get into just the IT spending. Do you did the data show that tech budgets are growing or shrinking, and why do you think that trend is happening?
Yes, so IT budgets are definitely growing year over year. So every year we ask IT professionals, is your spending growing compared to how it was last year? So 64% of organizations plan to increase budgets in 2025. And you're probably wondering, is that good or bad? Well, we also ask how much are your budgets growing? So total IT spending, according to the 2025 State of IT, is expected to grow 9% year over year, compared to last year when they said their budgets would grow 6% year over year. So that's a pretty significant increase. It's about a 50% increase over what they told us last year. We also asked them, what are the main reasons that you are increasing spending? And skeptics of the research have always said, well, that's just inflation, right? That's the main reason why you're increasing your spend. But when we analyze the data, we saw that increasing cybersecurity concerns is the number one reason to increase spending going forward into 2025.
And again, that totally makes sense to my IT brain, right? That's
Yeah.
where you want. And I think that, there are going to be, well, I should say, let me ask you, what does the data show for companies investing enough in data? Does it show that there's a heavier investment habit, or is that starting to go a little bit lighter on the investing?
Yeah, so we just covered like the absolute numbers. So yeah, most companies are increasing their spend. Yes, we're spending more than we were year over year, and the absolute size of the investment is increasing. But we also added a question this year. But is it actually enough? So at first glance, it appears that most companies believe that they are investing enough. But again, there's many sides to the story, depending on who you ask. So if you ask senior IT leadership, they're very likely to say, "Yeah, we're spending plenty. We don't need." But if you ask the guys in the trenches, the IT staff, they are 27 times as likely to say we are spending less than enough compared to more than enough. But if you ask the IT leadership, they are twice as likely to say we're spending more than enough than spending less than enough. So that's a huge gap in a perceived amount of adequacy of spend.
Yeah, and remember back in the day in Spice, I feel like this always happens, but Spice World, we used to do a very popular session also was how to speak CTO, right? Of just like,
Hmm.
because that's the person in between of just like, you almost have to now come to the table and translate what you're seeing in the trenches to the people with, the pen, the doc you sign, whatever, to sign your budgets, right? Of just like getting them to understand that. And there's different strategies of going about that. But I think that's a lot of importance because, again, when you're at the top and you're just looking at line items and you're like, oh, that's plenty, right? And then
Hmm.
all of a sudden, you just the person in the trenches that are actually doing the work just feels the brunt of that, and it spreads. So I feel
Yeah,
like
and
that's
I
always
did.
been good.
Yeah, there's definitely a disconnect between the languages that the two sides speak, and then even at my presentation at Spice World, I kind of did a live poll where I was asking the audience if they had enough budget. And at first, I asked one side, I asked the staff, and then I asked the IT managers, and I apologized to them. I said, "Hopefully, you're not sitting next to your manager."
I
And then one
remember
guy
that.
was, yeah, one guy was sitting next to his manager. So I was like, oh, I felt bad for him, so I gave him some swag. Yeah, it's kind of an awkward conversation, and we brought that to life in real time. But really, work needs to be done to bridge the gap. A lot of IT staff feel like they're being challenged to do more with less. They are feeling the effects of cost of living increases. Like some of the data shows that if you're an IT staff member, you're much more likely to say, I'm feeling the pain of cost of living increases than if you're in the management class. Also, smaller businesses were much more likely to be infected. Smaller businesses were much more likely to be affected by not only cost of living increases but also product cost increases. So they're feeling the effects of inflation much more than the enterprise or larger size companies.
So live idea right here, where we're just talking about it for future Spice World, maybe next year Spice World 2025. Let's get one CTO that's willing to sit there in that session and let's make it like a pitch fest, a speed dating. It's just like,
Oh yeah,
okay, you just got to right now pitch to your CTO and we'll give them the topic. Go pitch it, and then have a CTO be like, that's good, or oh, you convinced me. I feel like a
yeah,
weird hybrid version of like some kind of dating game or something.
yeah. Or Shark Tank for
Right? Yeah, Shark Tank of CTOs. I
IT.
love that.
Yeah, yeah.
But this is now we can document it. It's on tape, so we can record it. All right, Peter, that's a lot of great information. So the TLDR, and please do read it, but for convenience sake, right here, the TLDR, what are the key takeaways from the state of IT?
Okay, assuming you're an IT professional, I have actually have key takeaways depending on who you are. But assuming you're an IT professional, the key takeaways are this. The outlook, as we mentioned, for IT jobs is promising, both in the short and long term, but you really need to have the right skill sets. And even demand for some roles is expected to decline. So the way to fight that is to upskill and to pursue certifications or do some on the job type training for in demand skill sets, for example, cybersecurity being the most important skill to have where there is currently a skills gap. So, of course, always keep learning. Additionally, besides IT security, jobs in IT management and jobs that are more in line with the design of systems or the design of software, those are also expected to grow much faster than average going forward. So skills gaps exist in cybersecurity, coding, and data analysis, but also soft skills are quite important too. I mentioned IT managers are going to be more in demand going forward. So skills such as conflict resolution, we see a skills gap there, and certifications can certainly help in all of these areas. And we also talked about a divide between both the IT staff of the world and then the senior IT leaders of the world. So we talked about how those two sides really need to be able to communicate with each other. So I think my main message at Spice World when I was speaking to both audiences at the same time is that they should both have empathy for each other. So IT staff need to be able to speak the language of the boss, so learn about the challenges that management and the business as a whole is dealing with, and then figure out a way to make your case as to how investments in technology are really going to help achieve those overall goals. But if you're on the IT management side, you really need to empathize with the IT staff of the world. They're feeling all these pressures to do more with less. They're feeling the pressures of just cost of living increases on their bottom line. So really, for IT leaders, it's important to know that IT staff and IT professionals in general think that investing in technology is actually quite a good bet going into 2025. And if you are not increasing your technology budget over the next year or two or three, you are really falling behind. So most companies, we said 64% of businesses plan to increase their IT budgets year over year. Additionally, the absolute size of the investments are increasing. These investments are going into technologies like AI. They're going into technologies like cybersecurity solutions. And at the same time, to alleviate a lot of the concerns of the IT staff who are reporting all of these great findings and insights to us, to alleviate that, you really need to invest in people. So if you have good people, you need to invest in them to have them stick around. And companies are continuing to hire. They also need to invest in their current staff. So companies are 7 times as likely to increase the size of their IT staff than decrease in 2025. And there are skills gaps. You can hire for that, but most senior leaders say it's very difficult to hire for them. So it's important to help your current staff uh, get trained up on those technologies. Um, the job market is pretty good for your reports. So if you want to keep them around, you really have to give them a reason to stay around, whether it's creating a good environment for them, helping them upskill again, or compensating them in a way that will want them to stick around with you for a long time.
See, the great Peter Tsai are doing these great speeches, and you're getting people live to reach
Yeah.
across the aisle and to communicate with each other. And I love the story at the end of this is people still are investing in people. Before we go,
Yes.
Peter, I got to put you on the spot because I feel like as you are going through all this data, you're the Peterbot model is being trained where someday people are going to go to Peterbot and ask you something on the fly. So as you're
Yeah.
doing this year after year, I mean, your brain must be just like overflowing with facts. Let's see if you can be a little bit predictive. So what does Peter Tsai, Peterbot, expect from the state of IT in 2025?
So yeah, just going back to the TLDR version, tech investments are increasing. Businesses are also looking at emerging technologies such as AI because they see a lot of potential for growth. But at the same time, there's also a lot of challenges out there. There's a lot of uh, challenges in terms of companies are, even though they're increasing their budgets, they're also seeing a lot of pressure from cost increases and from inflation. And at the same time, on the career side, there's also challenges and opportunities. So there's a lot of job growth to be seen out there for sure. I mentioned 10-year projections where computer occupations are expected to grow much quicker than average. However, at the same time, you really need to have the right skill sets in order to thrive. So pursuing certifications in cybersecurity, uh, and then learning up on AI skill sets, for example, might put you in a good position to thrive into the future. But overall, we think the state of IT is quite strong, both from a spending perspective and from a career perspective. And IT professionals are just going to keep learning. Companies are going to keep spending, and hopefully, they will all be able to reach a future where they can benefit their organizations and benefit themselves as we all kind of grow as an IT community together.
There it is. As a community, together we stand, divided we fall. That's a great line to end on. So, Peter, thank you so much again for joining us today.
Thank you for having me so much.
All right, appreciate it. And I'll dust off an old one. Don't forget to tech yourself before you wreck yourself. We'll see you next time.